Proverbs chapter 5, verse 3. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she's bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps follow the path to Sheol, which is the grave. Verse 7. And now, O sons, listen to me, and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, lest you give your honor to others, and your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their fill of your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. And at the end of your life, you groan when your flesh and body are consumed. Verse 21. For the man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for a lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. That's in Proverbs chapter 5 alone. There are 3 chapters in Proverbs speaking about why you should avoid immoral women. 3 chapters in Proverbs alone, and I cannot begin to count how many others are in the rest of the Bible. Now, avoiding immoral women. We know it's something we should be doing, but it's something we don't take very seriously. And if there's something I've been learning, it's that it's one thing to know that you shouldn't do something, but it's a whole other thing to know why you shouldn't do it and to not actually do it. We all know we should be avoiding immoral women, but put in the situation, like actually being put into the situation, how many of us would resist? Now, in this video, I'm going to go through 3 characters, 3 beloved characters who fell because of immoral women and their inability to deal with lust. The first character I'm going to speak about is King David. King David, a man after God's own heart. 151 books in Psalms, or 151 chapters in Psalms, speaking about how much he loves God. Like, I go and read it. Honestly, like David in Psalms was insane. Like, he was so in love with God. Like, it's something we should all be aspiring to. What happened with him? One day, he sees Bathsheba on the roof, bathing, and he's like, who is that beautiful woman? And he told himself, I had to have her. He told himself he had to have her. But she was married to his best friend. So what did he do? He had him killed. I'm not even joking. If you don't remember the story, like go and read in there. He had his best friend killed because he wanted to be with his wife, right? He killed Uriah. But I don't think a lot of people know like what happened afterwards. I didn't even know exactly what happened afterwards. I just knew he did that because it was crazy, but I didn't actually read like what happened to him afterwards. I know he ended up getting married to Bathsheba and they ended up having kids later, but he paid for that. Right? He couldn't deal with the grief that came from his own sin, nor could he prevent the death of his child. Yes, Bathsheba did get pregnant initially and they lost the child. Right? This was something that happened, all because David couldn't control himself. King David, after God's own, a man after God's own heart. The second guy, King Solomon, the king of wisdom himself, right? He's read in Proverbs. We've just read from Proverbs. I've just told you about how Proverbs tells you to avoid immoral women, and he couldn't do it himself, right? So everyone knows King Solomon was the richest man on the planet, the wisest man on the planet, and all the women loved him, right? The law of Moses back then said that you could not marry foreign women because they would lead your heart astray. They would turn you away from God. Right? And King Solomon's issue was that he tried to serve 2 masters, right? Try to serve God and he tried to serve his lust. And we know in Matthew that Jesus said you cannot serve 2 masters, for you will end up, I forgot what the reason is afterwards, but you get the idea. Like you'll end up not serving God, you end up serving your other one. You cannot serve 2 masters. And Solomon tried to serve 2 masters. He couldn't even take his own advice about not avoiding immoral women, right? So he ignored the law of Moses, which said you could not marry foreign women for good reason, because they would turn your heart away from God. They were pagans and they believed in all these false gods, and they would turn your heart away from them. He ignored that. He married Pharaoh's daughter, and he had 700 wives. Many of them were foreign. And what happened? Eventually, his heart did get turned away from God. And God got angry, and he said, I'm going to take away your kingdoms. But because of his father, King David, which is quite interesting. Did you guys know King David was Solomon's father? I didn't know that until like a couple of weeks ago. It was quite interesting to me. But yeah, he said because of his father, King David, he would not take away Solomon's kingdom in his lifetime. So he'd take it away from Solomon's sons. But either way, God ended up doing it. Right? This is King Solomon himself, the king of wisdom, right? God blessed him with so much money, so much wealth because of his wisdom, right? And he loved God, but he tried to serve two masters, God and lust, and you just cannot do that. Law of Moses said, do not marry foreign women because they will take you away from God. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And eventually they did turn him away from God, right? I've just given you two examples of two great men, King David and King Solomon, who had their downfall because they didn't avoid immoral women. Less so in David's case, Bathsheba, I don't think she was immoral. He just didn't control his lust. But it's along the same path, right? And the third guy I'm going to speak about is Samson. Right, we know about Samson, right? He was blessed with so much strength from God. Right, he was blessed with so much strength that everyone looked at him in awe, and they just wanted to find out what the source of his strength was so they could take him down, right? And this is also back in Old Testament, so the law of Moses was there. Do not marry foreign women, for they will take they'll take your heart away from God, right? Samson got seduced by Delilah, and she managed to get him to admit the true source of his strength. And when I was reading through the story, funnily enough, Delilah had asked him multiple times before, right? There was a time, the first time she asked him, and he made some joke. He basically lied to her. He was like, I forgot what he gave her, but excuse me, I forgot what exactly he told her. But he told her he told her a lie, and then she tried to like use it against him, and then it didn't work. And then she asked him again, and then he told her another lie, and she tried to use it against him, and it didn't work. And then I think he did that again, and he lied again. Then one night, he just decided, I'm just going to tell her, it's my hair. And I'm like, what the hell? You knew you couldn't trust her before. And she failed the test. She did try to use it against you. And now you're just deciding to tell her, which I found quite ridiculous. But this is what happens, I guess, when you don't control your lust. Right? So she found out, well, Samson told her that it's my hair. And then Delilah gave her up because she was Philistine, right? And the Philistines wanted, I told you, everyone wanted to know the true source of his strength so they could take him down. So the Philistines took him in, they cut off his hair. No, I think she cut off his hair. I don't know who cut off his hair. Somebody cut off his hair. Okay, and then the Philistines managed to take him in, and they gouged his eyes out, and he lived a very, very pathetic life. But at the end of his life, he managed to gain some redemption because he spoke to God. He was like, God, please can you use me to I don't know if he said to redeem, I don't know exactly what he said, but he asked God to be like, I'm here for you again. Because what happened was that eventually his hair grew out again because they forgot about him, and he was blind because obviously his eyes were gouged out. But basically what ended up happening was that God told him to go and push upon like this massive pillar. It broke down, and the whole building came crashing down and killed thousands of Philistines. And Samson also died in there. He managed to redeem himself. But there I've just given you 3 examples of men that were truly blessed by God. Wise men after God's own heart, who were blessed. They were blessed by God. But they still failed. They still failed to avoid immoral women or to control their lust. So if King Solomon, King David, like these are men after God's own heart. Like for us nowadays, I don't know about you, but I struggle with where does my heart lie? I'm constantly trying to get closer with God, right? These men were like the picture of people who loved God so much that he blessed them so much because that's how much they loved him, and they still fell to lust. The Bible says so many times, do not try and fight lust. You should flee away from it. Right? Joseph. We know about Joseph and Potiphar. Right? That's always the model picture. That's how we should be when it comes to moral women, right? So Potiphar came to Joseph, like trying to make an advance on him, and she was married, and she was married to his master, and Joseph just ran. He ran out of there, and it's like that's what we should be doing. Right? Do not think you can fight it. It's there in the Bible. Do not think you can fight lust. You must flee away from it. And as I said, of these three men who were so great, so after God's own heart, still fell to lust, what do you think is going to happen to us? We must avoid immoral women. We must. Comment below what you guys think about just the whole topic in general, any opinions, any questions, and make sure you guys are subscribed to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, see you boys.